You're tuned in to Ask the Master Auto Technician. Car questions? Get answers right now. Call 850-763-0555.
James Auto Center, we fix it right, guaranteed. Beep, 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 yeah.
All right, good morning, everybody. This is Tuesday morning's part 2 of our Tuesday morning show. I got Rob Lapham calling all the way from Port St. Joe for robforcongress.org. If you want to know more about his policies, his stance, what he wants to talk about, or what he believes in, go to Rob for Congress. That's ROBFORCONGRESS.org and find out more about Rob Lapham. Rob, how are we doing, sir?
I'm doing terrific, and with that promotion, I could just probably shut up and let you continue to promote my candidacy.
Well, I thought about you last night. We were in Mexico Beach, and we were getting ready to watch the fireworks at Mexico Beach, and we got to watch the previews in Port St. Joe instead. We got to watch them for a few minutes because y'all shoot them off, then y'all get to watch the ones in Mexico Beach, probably from St. Joe. But it's pretty neat how you can get on that curve of Florida and see all the fireworks that take place in between St. Joe.
Yeah, we were sitting in St. Joe Beach, which is adjacent to Mexico Beach, and a bit away from Port St. Joe, but we could see it at both ends, and also out on Cape San Blas, the spit out there. So there were some fireworks there, so that was enjoyable. And I wish I'd known you were here. Otherwise, I would have given you a call, or we could have meet up, and we had lots of extra beers in the cooler.
I was with family. Yesterday is, and my wife's family, that is our family reunion day. That's where all the members of her family get together and they break bread and have a good time. So it's a family event day, and that's what we did yesterday for the family reunion on the 4th of July. And then, of course, that night we go to Mexico. They're staying on Mexico Beach, so we went to their condo and got to watch the fireworks. And believe it or not, the traffic is so much better coming out of Mexico Beach than it is coming from Pier Park from Panama City Beach. It'll take you 2 hours to get out of Pier Park, where on Mexico Beach, 30 minutes, you're out of there. It's not half the traffic. But it's very, very enjoyable in Bay County. But you wrote me, you said you wanted to talk about Obamacare, what you would do. Because everyone talks a good game out there. What I'm going to do if I get in office, I'm going to repeal Obamacare, we're going to do this. But no one does anything other than make noise.
Right. Well, and of course, it's very popular to say what's wrong with Obamacare, and everybody, even Democrats, have things they would go ahead and change. But people are pretty short on the solutions, the specific solutions. And I'll say this, James, and this is going to take 3 or 4 minutes.
Okay.
If elected, I will sponsor and work tirelessly to pass legislation to get the federal government out of the healthcare business so that it can be dramatically more effective, safer, easily affordable, and far more responsive to individual needs. And specifically, end all federal mandates on individuals and businesses to buy medical insurance, including those contained in Obamacare.
All right.
End associated tax penalties. End all coverage mandates and restrictions on health insurance that prevent companies from selling policies the customers want to buy. Enable purchase of medical insurance plans across state lines.
No.
Existing policies ought to be honored until the free market is restored. I would end government guarantees, subsidies, and bailouts of insurance companies, including these so-called risk corridors that help them so they don't lose any money or have that risk. I'd end all federal laws and regulations that restrict use or that drive up the cost of drugs, medical supplies and equipment, and other healthcare products and services. And that includes ending all regulatory powers of the Food and Drug Administration. I'd require states receiving federal Medicare funds to similarly end all state mandates and regulations on medical care, including those on drugs, insurance, procedures, medical supplies, equipment, office visits, laboratory tests, anything you can think of. And James, once the market has been freed and prices plummet, quickly end all federal health care programs and subsidies, which won't be needed any longer. Dramatically cut taxes and or the deficit by the amount that we save by doing this. And the other side of the coin is our veterans. I give our veterans total control over their health care by putting money into individual health savings accounts to cover their lifelong medical costs for physical, emotional, or mental injuries resulting from combat. I would shut down the Veterans Administration. I'd privatize all federally funded medical research, and I'd return every dollar saved to taxpayers. So those are almost well over a dozen things that I will do. If elected, I will sponsor and work to pass legislation to give effect to those things.
So
apologies for the rant.
so let me understand if I understand correctly. First off, get the veterans where they're taken care of by private care by cutting and getting rid of the Veterans Administration. That's one layer of bureaucracy, one layer of federal government, and more bureaucracy that we can get rid of, and that would definitely bring the prices down. And for the veterans, give them a health savings account where money is put into that account so they can pick the doctor that they want to go to. Is that what you're saying? And pay for it as they go. Is that what you're saying?
I say absolutely, no question about it.
Right.
And by the way, there's more people work for the Veterans Administration than the entire United States Air Force. We have 300,000 plus fewer employees by shutting down the VA. But yes, what you said exactly reflects what I will do.
And that's what a lot of people don't realize in business. The only way you can cut overhead, the biggest, is either have more customers come in, either that or raise your prices. Or the biggest thing that in business is employees. You have to get rid of your employees. Most businesses run one person shy, and that's what you're talking about. We've got all this top-heavy bureaucracy up here. We got people that are making six-figure salaries, and they're doing the same thing that that 5 other people are doing. So we got all this redundancy, and a lot of people don't like the idea that people may lose jobs, but that's a fact. You cannot get it. Has government gotten smaller in the last 10 years, Rob, that you know of? I mean, I'm serious. That's a simple question, because I don't think it has. I know our economy has gotten smaller. I know that.
No, there's no question that we have more federal employees year after year. James, it has never changed. Well, I'll take exception to that. After World War II, we obviously had a tremendous downsizing in the military. But every year, and let's just leave the military out of it, leaving military aside, every year we have more federal employees than we had the year before. And I just scribbled a note to myself to go ahead and chart that out on a graph. I like looking at graphs.
Well, I need to do the same thing for local, because if I'm not mistaken, the same thing happens to county governments as well. I mean, I know since 2008 we've had the Great Recession, so to speak, that's taken place, started 2007, 2008. So what's going to, businesses is, I know a lot of people have downsized. A lot of businesses have gone out of business. A lot of businesses have cut their employee staff by at least 20%, just to make sure that they can keep up with what's happening out there. But yet government, if I'm not mistaken, they continue to grow at the rate of over 15% a year, if I'm not mistaken, as far as employees. I've got to double check it here locally, but I know federally, I want to say it's around 15% growth a year in employees. I'm going, I cannot believe they do that. It may not be that high, but someone told me it was that high, and I go, I got to check on that. It's pretty impressive.
James, I think that the good thing from your perspective in terms of running for county commissioner is the smaller the political unit, the more opportunity there is for citizens to become involved and directly affect policy. So for a candidate such as yourself, who is indisputably for smaller government and will be looking at opportunities to cut the Bay County budget and refund taxes to the constituency, it's easier to get a bunch of people together to support that and influence public policy. Obviously, by the time you get to Washington, there's a congressman has to face 434 other congressmen and the Washington machinery, which, aside from the congressman, there are 5,300 paid staff that work for these people, congressmen, none of whom want to lose their jobs.
Right.
And so they are subtly creating situations to support larger government because it means stability for their jobs, even though the jobs in the Florida Panhandle, the unemployment rate continues to rise. It's disgusting. You
told me it was 11%, and if I mentioned that to someone from the Chamber of Commerce, or I mentioned it to someone in the workforce, they'd look like, no, it's only like 5%. And I go, well, I'm hearing that in this area, District 2, which goes from Ocala all the way to Western Bay County, all the way up to Tallahassee to the coast, is around 11%. And they go, I don't know where you're getting those figures from. And I go, well, someone who's pretty knowledgeable should know about it, but could you explain a little bit more about this 11% out there?
Sure. Well, first of all, the 5%, this all comes from the U.S. Department of Labor. They've changed their method of calculating and so forth. But today, and for the last roughly 6 months, they've been showing national unemployment at about 5%.
Right.
And we won't get into the folks who stopped looking for work because that number is phony on a bunch of different aspects. But taking their base of 5%, then, and the last data that I can find from the U.S. Department of Labor actually refers to the old Congressional District 2, which is a bit smaller than the new Congressional District 2. But that number put out by the U.S. Department of Labor is 11.2%. So what they are saying, it's not us saying it here, but the feds are saying that our unemployment in this area is more than twice the national average.
Wow.
So frankly, we're getting screwed.
Well, we are. And
excuse my French.
why is that? How is that? Is it because the businesses aren't coming here? Is it because they've been so overregulated that they don't want to come here, and the taxing? Or tell me, why do you think that we're getting screwed over in the long run by not having jobs here? We're twice what the national average is.
It's both regulation and taxes. For every $1 that the U.S. government takes out in taxes, it is $1 less available to grow businesses. And when you strip businesses of their, take away a portion of their revenue to go to Washington for their, frankly, crazy projects most of the time, then that dollar is not available to invest back in the business. And it creates pressure to hire fewer employees, and that's part of it. The other thing is, of course, regulatory burden. I've forgotten what it is for businesses by itself, but the total cost of complying with our federal tax legislation, our income tax, is $450 billion a year. That's almost $500 billion that is spent in compliance.
Yes.
That is money paid to tax attorneys and CPAs and so forth. And I'm not knocking those professions, but it's a tremendous amount of money taken out of the free market economy to support, frankly, socialist objectives.
That's some shovel-ready jobs you're talking about. We give them to CPAs.
Well, we know what Gary Johnson said about shovel-ready jobs 4 years ago. I think he said in response to I think Brett Baer was the moderator, and he said, my neighbor's 2 dogs generate more shovel-ready projects than Obama, and that got a pretty broad laugh, I think.
Well, the thing is, when you're taking money from someone else to give it at the point of a gun to give it to somebody else, is theft, and that's pretty well what they're doing right now. They take money and say, "Oh, it's this is for the general welfare. It's for the best." It's really it doesn't go for that. It goes to pay off our debt. What it's going for, and that money, that's what it pays for. It doesn't really. People don't realize what their tax money goes for is to pay off our debt. And we're not doing a very good job of it because we're almost $20 trillion in debt, and it's only going to get worse. And unless people like you and people that make up their mind that we're going to change this situation, we've got to start putting new people in Congress that'll say, no, I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore. We've got to cut our budget. We've got to quit spending, and we've got to rein our finances under control. But until that time, Rob, I don't see anything changing. I really don't.
I agree with you, and I'll say that every single one of the other folks who are running for Congressional District 2, cutting the budget is not their priority.
No.
Increasing spending is their priority for their particular constituencies, and it is a real shame, and frankly, I intend to call them out on it every opportunity I get. And we're rapidly approaching the time when there will be debates. I know the CBS affiliate in Panama City has scheduled a television debate, and I've started to put event dates up on my website, robforcongress.org, so that folks can click and see when a particular event is going to be held. And there are 2 or 3 events this month, July, a couple more next month, and after the August 30th primary, there are going to be many more debates because there will be, for Congressional District 2, 1 Democrat, 1 Republican, and 1 Libertarian me. And frankly, television media particularly likes to be able to schedule things with a small group rather than, you'll recall at the beginning of the Republican primary, you had about 7, the presidential primary, you had 17 different people. Kind of difficult to manage that group. After August the 30th, I think we're going to see a fair opportunity for the constituency here in Congressional District 2 to see the real differences between the old parties and the Libertarian Party that I represent.
James Auto Center, we fix it right, guaranteed. Beep, 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 yeah.